Many of us strive to be the best versions of ourselves in the workplace. We set seemingly impossible goals. We battle to achieve them. Often in that pursuit, we forget to take the same level of care and diligence with ourselves and with the ones we love the most. LodeStar is about those moments, the ones that shape go-to-market journeys and the humans behind them. We'll dive into the wins, the mistakes, and the lessons that don't fit neatly into a playbook. Hi everyone, Cliff Simon here. Welcome back to another episode of LodeStar. I'm joined today by Sophie Buonassisi. I always never know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, let's do Sophie Buonassisi.
Buonassisi.
We can keep this in it.
Oh man,
It's a mouthful. The Italians don't make it easy.
Yeah, I still don't know your maiden name's actually still in my phone.
Exactly,
so.
That's how long we've known each other. So.
Yeah, but you're with GTM Fund. You've been running marketing there for a number of years now, but that's not where you started. You can give us a quick background on your work life history.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first and foremost.
Career. That's the word. Career.
Career. Yeah. Words are hard today, but thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited. I think you already touched on it, but we've known each other for a long time, and we've had many great conversations around career, go-to-market, software overall, and the ecosystem. But we've never actually hit record on it, so I'm excited for this.
Yeah. This is gonna be good.
Yeah. Bit of background. I came up through more of the quant marketing go-to-market space. So I was running go-to-marketing at a very kind of quantitative marketing, conversion optimization, software as a service. We led with service. We had built a software product that we utilized also. So we kind of had both leverages or both levers there going. And it was just absolutely fantastic. I loved building and scaling the company. I built it for 4.5 years. Was working pretty heavily with some really incredible mid to enterprise stage companies and brands. And through that experience, just got to work hands-on with these companies' funnels, like Sophos and Typeform and some really incredible companies that I got visibility into everything that they were doing from the mechanics of their funnel. And it was also at a really interesting inflection point where conversion optimization was a little bit newer. Mm-hmm. A lot of teams weren't yet optimizing full funnel. So it was a very holistic company initiative. You know, we had the CEOs of companies sitting in on our meetings. Like, this was an entire company initiative, not a marketing initiative. And I think now it's become a lot more common practice, but at the time it's just such an incredible experience to be able to work with these companies. And so that was a ton of fun, but my heart was always in startups. And so it didn't make sense for our go-to-market at the time to build out an SMB function.
Okay.
Just didn't make sense based on our business. However, my heart was there, so I was always consulting on the side with startups. So I was helping and supporting them, but as we all know, time is finite. We cannot fabricate time, and so I never felt like I was helping and supporting startups enough, or as much as I'd like to. And that was one of the factors that led me to transition to venture. Another one was just an insatiable curiosity of building myself. So I've always been tinkering, building on the side, learning to code, talking to people around ideas, collaborating with other people kind of in the background, things that you don't see on LinkedIn. And so that was always at the forefront. It started to just emerge more and more so. I ended up joining an incubator. I was working with a lot of startup founders on their ideas. And through that process, I was running a cohort with other founders. And I realized, I'm really passionate about helping people change and innovate with their visions. And I'm really interested in all these different ideas that I have, but it doesn't make sense for me to actually solve this particular acute problem that I'm interested in. I'm not the best positioned person. I think it's important for any kind of founder to reflect and realize, is this the right business for me? Am I the right person for this business? Because that's ultimately a huge factor in how you go to market.
Sure.
So I wasn't uniquely positioned to solve the problem that I went into there to solve. But I realized that actually wasn't the passion itself. It was helping other founders and helping the ecosystem innovate. So that led me to a lot of conversations with my network around venture, fell in love with venture, and ultimately decided to transition over to the space, which is what led me to join GTM Fund.
And that was quite a process in and of itself.
It was. It was quite a process. It happened quickly, but it was quite a process. I do believe when you really listen to your internal compass, and you are reflecting on every experience and you're doing it from an intrinsic place as opposed to an extrinsic place around motivation, that will lead you to the right places. And so for me, it was just a North Star compass. It was a magnetism. When you know, you know. And I knew this is the exact company and role that I want to dedicate my life to building when I first, saw the opportunity.
And I mean, you went at it full bore.
I did for that exact reason. And there was actually a good friend of mine, he said to me, we just exchanged a couple words about it. He said, if you want something, go get it. And that was it. And so I did. And it was always those words that stuck with me when I was thinking, is this too much? No, I just thought back to John's words. So I did end up entering the process as they were looking for someone from the marketing and community side. It's very rare for a venture firm to hire somebody into this interesting intersection between marketing, media, and community. And I was specifically thinking about the intersection of marketing and community when I was looking at venture, which is quite rare to find. Mm-hmm. So when I saw this, I just knew I had that magnetism. It was the right thing. And so throughout the process, entered the process traditionally around how they'd structured it. But then once we began and once we had that first interview, I took the initiative to actually create a few assets that were not necessarily part of the process, but reinforcing myself as a candidate. So for example, a video where I asked people in my network to share a couple words, and then I made a little video myself overnight. I stayed up at a 24-hour cafe and edited a video myself, and it was a ton of fun. I think that was an interesting experience because it was the first time I'd ever asked these people in my network and friends, and some people I'd known for a short period of time, some people I'd known for a long time, for anything, I guess, specific. And I think what moved me the most was that I didn't specify any time frame. I texted them and I said, hey, I'm applying for a role I'm really interested in, and I'm compiling a video or a compilation of videos of people saying a couple words to better characterize and showcase my character and personality and who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, building an early stage company, GTM Fund, we're an early stage emerging manager. You're building a startup. The people are so important. You're not just optimizing for skill set, existing expertise. You need the right human, like the right person in the role. And that's what I wanted to show is I am the right person for this role and person to build this company, not just serve in a role. And so, yeah, I texted a couple people and I didn't specify time or the role or anything. And I was shocked and so moved by people just responded, yes, no problem. And then just sent a video. They didn't even ask when, they just sent it immediately. And I was really, really moved by that. It was pretty special.
And now it feels like the role is it feels like it was made for you, right?
It does. I'm super, super, super lucky. It's, an absolute privilege to be able to invest with some of the best minds in tech and support some incredible founders with their visions and do it with an amazing team.
So going back to that intersection of venture and community, you've got GTM Fund. You guys launched GTMnow. What's the thought process behind that, and why is that so important?
So GTM Fund, we're an early stage venture firm. We invest pre-seed to Series A. GTMnow is a media brand. And it is quite unique, like you said, to have a media brand on the back of a venture company. We think about it sitting on top of the venture company and amplifying all that we do and supporting with distribution. Distribution, our belief, is the final moat. Distribution is the final moat. And that has been our slide 3, I believe, of our fundraising deck since the beginning. It has never changed because that is ultimately a huge thesis around GTM Fund and why we exist and how we support founders. And so when we think about why we have a media company, it's because we genuinely believe that ourselves too. We help founders with distribution and we also invest in it ourselves. It dates way back to Max Altschuler. He's our general partner, but he actually once founded a media brand called Sales Hacker. So he founded it, really came from a place of having these kind of go-to-market conversations in person with people in the Bay Area. It was after he planned the first couple SaaS annuals with Jason Lemkin, expanded his network. And these conversations were so helpful at the time. He was like, how can we expand this? We're one geo. How can we reach more people? And so he started a media brand. And over the course of 10 years, that grew to over 175,000 people globally. And then in 2018, he actually sold it to the software company Outreach, Seattle-based, and then went on to join Outreach and went through an incredible growth stint that they had. I believe they went 20 million to 200 250 million. So it was an incredible run, but he understood. The point of this is he understood that distribution matters. He ran a media company. And so when we started GTM Fund, we knew that was important. And we started distribution from day one, a podcast, a newsletter. And those were, they're time consuming. As you know, content is, you have to be really thoughtful about it. But they were always priority because we knew and believed distribution is the final moat. And so when this serendipitous fate, what have you moment kind of came up to actually reacquire Sales Hacker in 2023, a very full circle moment. I swear that only happens to Max. It's crazy. And he did actually say when he sold it that one day he would buy it back, which again is crazy. But we actually reacquired the company in 2023. So when we did that, just 10x our distribution overnight. And that was the impetus for looking to hire somebody into that role at the intersection of media, marketing, and then community also. And when I joined the company.
What has that distribution network done for your ability to, one, help your portcos, and two, help you find additional companies to invest in?
The impact cannot be overstated. It's incredible. So we have a few different objectives of the media company. A huge one is portfolio company amplification, like you mentioned. So the ability to plug our portfolio companies in and highlight them in our media supports their overall distribution, their overall growth. So we can do that. We've got, a email subscriber base of over 50,000, overall impressions over 200,000. So we can help amplify their distribution very quickly. Mm-hmm. It also helps with a lot of our operator LPs because we can help plug in their insights. These are some of the best minds in tech, essentially, that have built software companies. And so we're able to, and so fortunate to be able to take their learnings and help distill them to not only our portfolio companies, but others in the ecosystem. We've got a lot of venture partners that leverage our media for their own portfolio companies and other people just for their learnings. And that's always been a big part of GTM Fund from the beginning is how do we ultimately in everything, media, education, investing, how do we democratize access to something and make it more readily available? Because ultimately there are barriers for people changing the world and innovating. And if you take those barriers away and you equip them with the right information, the right resources, you can change the world. You can change the trajectory of people's careers.
The GTM Fund community, being a part of it myself, right? The learnings there, the only thing that it has come close to it was the first year and a half, 2 years of me being in Pavilion, and the relationships that I built then. So
very cool. I'm happy to hear that, and we're lucky to have you.
There's so much else. You guys have built this incredible podcast, and where do you guys rank now?
Overall
top
podcast
1%
in
of
the
all
world,
podcasts. That's an insane stat.
Thank you.
And 750,000 downloads now.
Across Apple and Spotify, and then we've got YouTube also. So we actually launched our YouTube channel a little bit later. So it's growing. I'd say we've got currently right now about 14,000 subscribers, and then episodes, we're continuously looking to optimize that channel and just overall lean into a little bit more of a video forward approach as people look to learn through video.
And leaning into the ways that people are consuming their content today.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are a huge inspiration for me. We've got Polaris now, launched the company, but we've also launched a media brand at the same time with this podcast that we're doing, right? And the newsletter that launched a couple weeks ago, and then on and on and on. But yeah, I think YouTube launches in October.
I love it.
So no, I think it's an incredible insight, right? You have to own the means of distribution if you want to be able to do anything meaningful in the long term.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you think about that with your portcos? How do you help them go out and do something similar? Create that thought leadership, whether it's through the GTMnow brand or through their own brand?
A lot of it is around education.
Okay.
So founders are always at different stages. Some are technical, some are go-to-market focused. And so it's really meeting them where they are and helping them to understand what go-to-market strategy is going to be most impactful for them. And sometimes they're already bought into distribution. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they might have a really niche audience where their distribution strategy looks super different. It looks different for everybody. So it's really understanding and just meeting them where they're at overall. Our expertise and kind of how we can support companies best is go-to-market. So it really is, what are from inception, what are your challenges in terms of How are you acquiring customers? How are you thinking about building out your go-to-market strategy? How are you thinking about selling? And so we'll actually work and sit down with founders to best understand that ourselves, but also broker a lot of introductions. Sometimes that's helpful. Is we talk about distribution, and when we say distribution, that really is the ability to connect with your end customers. A huge part of that is also your overall advisory, I would say, and your ability to absorb information from other sources too. So we'll connect them with a lot of operators that are going to be beneficial. They may not be end customers, but people that have built similar things, people that are 10 steps ahead and have already successfully built and sold companies or built and scaled companies in a similar realm or a similar sales motion. And that way they can get a lot of information from those specific operators also.
And like you mentioned, one of the things you guys do really well is that level of introduction. And how do you match up the members of the community, right, these great operators who have done all these amazing things, sold companies, whatever, all the way through to your founders? And how do you, I know you guys have a way of doing it, but could you share more about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it has evolved over time. Anytime someone joins GTM Fund as an LP, we have a preference card. And so they fill out this preference card, which states what type of involvement do they want. Sometimes people do want to be involved with founders. Sometimes they prefer not to. Just depends on where they're at and their individual preference around investing. So if they do want to be involved in founders, then what happens is they essentially are listed as such. And we have this database that matches all of the skill sets, the motions, the overall expertise, the companies they worked at for every single LP. Mm-hmm. And so we have this incredibly rich database on paper. We've built something to scale that because ultimately we were managing it as a team. And I think that's, I would say, one of our most powerful areas is that, like, we know the people that are in GTM Fund, they've become, some of the most important people in our lives, some dear friends, some incredible people. And so we know who's got those specific skill sets. So we were doing a lot of it manually and still are today, because everything, even if you think about AI's utilization, there is that delta where you want to take it. Maybe it takes you 80% of the way or 90% of the way. You want to take that final 10%.
Sure. And
so we think about it in the same lens. Is now we leverage AI to do so. So we actually built a proprietary AI software or AI system that overlays all of our proprietary data. That includes our network, our media, our community, our internals. So it sits on top and it's able to triangulate all these areas and infer context. So now what we do, when founders are looking for a very specific ask, we actually go to our AI tool that we built ourselves and actually plug that ask in. It will then showcase who the best people are through triangulating their connections, their context, the media that they've published themselves, the media that we've published. It can really infer that. And so it just expedites the process. It hasn't greatly changed the output. We were still creating that same output. However, it has made it a lot more efficient on our side.
I feel like so many people are trying to figure out how to use AI, but they never bring it down to like a tactical, like practical level. It's always like, we want AI. When do we want it? Now. What are we going to use it for? Who knows?
100%. And so we actually, about, I want to say 8 months ago now, we sat down and we had a little bit of an AI hackathon. So we outlined every single area of the business, what our pain points were, efficiency-wise, maybe the quality of output-wise, and then we ranked them. And now we prioritize them. We move things through. We think that almost Kanban style, where we're pulling things through and then furthering them along the maturity curve. So that custom build is our most mature state, and it was one of the most time-consuming areas that could easily be supported with AI. So the KPI that we're optimizing there for was efficiency primarily, because truly the quality was there. We spent a lot of time on it. Those are really important introductions and connections and resources for founders. Also the quality. Just to ensure, but I'm sure as we grow, that quality metric increases in terms of AI's impact on it, but the efficiency was the number one KPI that we're optimizing for there. And so that's our most mature state, and then all of our other processes are somewhere in the middle, just based on how they've progressed on the maturity curve.
Okay, very cool. Another interesting thing with you guys, right? You raised a second round. That seemingly went fairly well. don't know. I don't know what we can and can't say about that.
No, it was a tough market, but I think oversubscribing it, we were just so grateful to be able to be in that state. And I think it's a testament to the product that we're able to support alongside yourself and other operators, where there's a real need around go-to-market for founders. And we're grateful to be able to be the actual conduit of that value.
One of the things that you mentioned was the way that the ratio changed, because you guys used to only do sidecar, right? And now you've also moved on to being the main check. So how is that broken down, and what's the future thought process there?
Yeah, great question. So we start off very strategic in terms of on the cap table, and the value proposition is go-to-market support. And that was where we came in. So we were able to partner with tier 1 brands from the gate because our value prop was so unique and needed. And so it allowed us to really support these incredible companies early. And now what we've seen is companies are wanting to support even more so. And so we actually did the math. We didn't even realize how many deals we'd actually led recently. We led 50% of our recent deals. And so as a partner, the way that we think about it is less black and white of we have to be X on the cap table. It's really about what is the best composition for each individual founder's cap table. And we will then support it as long as it makes sense, right? So maybe it's that we follow, maybe it's that we co-lead, maybe it's that we lead. We have the flexibility and ability to do any of those. It really depends on that individual company, that individual founder's need. And ultimately, that's what's going to best position the company and the founder for success. So we want to be able to have that flexibility to kind of mold and go with them. But
that's a fairly unique position in venture. I feel like most of the time they want to be, venture wants to be in control.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've definitely seen. It's a bit of a different approach, but I think it mirrors the go-to-market side, where every company is unique and different and needs different things. And so it's looking at the holistic company of what will better serve them in their go-to-market, as opposed to our position and our position only. And I think that we're pretty bullish on that being a very, very efficient, impactful strategy. And it's been proven out here too.
I think it's also very human.
Yeah.
Right? That stands as a differentiator for the fund, right? Because the focus is the founders and the focus is the LPs. At least from my perspective, it feels like the overarching thesis is if we spend time with really good operators, whether again, founders, LPs, there's going to have a natural outcome of success, because we're investing time and effort into good people who, yes, as operators, they're excellent. They're able to do the thing, but in addition to doing the thing, they fit this ethos.
Yeah, very, very well said. It's a great way of framing it.
So obviously you look at a ton of companies, a lot of people come knocking on the door at GTM Fund. What are you guys seeing as some major themes in the market right now? And what are you guys most interested in when it comes to your next round of investment?
We're seeing a couple things at the macro level overall, and then at the overall verticalization, and then under that go-to-market strategies of those companies. So at the very, very macro level, there's a few of the things that we're seeing I can share is seed. So there's never been such a demand for seed. Overall, post-money valuations are hovering around the 18 to 20 million mark. That is real demand for early stage founders, especially doing AI forward companies. And those founding teams, they're raising capital, and they're raising capital earlier. So that's one huge trend. But another trend is really, conversely, the graduation rate from seed to Series A has never been higher. So it's a really tough hurdle. Done are kind of the days of like that early, easier transition based on metrics, because overall the hurdle is higher. Like, it's not enough to necessarily have a great seed round. That next round will be more challenging unless you're really showing traction. And so that's something that we're coaching and working with companies on as early as pre-seed and seed to best understand and best equip them.
Do you think that's more of a product of the fact that seeds are getting bigger? Like, we did an event yesterday with Spara, right? Really cool AI chatbot capability. They've got a voice component, an avatar component. They just announced a $15 million seed like a week ago, right? Like, I can't imagine a $15 million seed. Right? That's crazy to me. But on the other side, so is it the fact that people are growing these massive seeds around AI, or is the other variable the fact that most of these companies are doing some type of POC and there has to be a lot more structure and understanding around like what's actually long tail revenue from an ARR perspective? What is that run rate?
Those are both huge factors involved. So it could be the metrics around the seed round. It could be what revenue is ARR versus ER, so experimental revenue. Now, a lot of companies are running pilots. And so where that fits in, you might have a hugely inflated kind of revenue number, what looks like it from the onset. However, a lot of those are experimental and they could easily turn the other way or they could turn into ARR. So it's really understanding the composition there. So there's a few different factors involved. But overall, the influx of volume too of seed has been a factor. So a few things combined has certainly made the hurdle rate harder these days.
And then you can go and build something really quickly too. So how often are you seeing something that's getting product market fit or what seems to be product market fit with the ERR versus ARR conversation, but then you get a lookalike company that pops up within a month or two once they've sort of come out and had the success and people are building?
Happens all the time. Yeah, it happens all the time. It's really challenging. And that's why go-to-market is so important because it really is the differentiator now. Tech moats have declined. It's how you're actually building and scaling your company that create the moat. And we're seeing that on the investment side too, where the times of more spreadsheet investing, if you will, are done. You could have incredible metrics. You know, you're triple, doubling, and your NRR is out the roof. However, you might get a no from an investor. And it's a really interesting time because investors are almost taking a tiny bit of a back foot, even when they're being pushed forward and super interested to jump forward too at the same time, because there's entire categories that exist and are booming today that might not exist tomorrow with AI. And so the theses behind investment firms are really important now. Investors are specifically looking at how does this company fit into my theses as opposed to in the past, what are these metrics and how does that fit into the overall ecosystem?
So how do you hedge?
Hedge and differentiate. And for us, I'd say most of our investments are currently AI native, vertical, and infrastructure. Those are three primary areas that we're investing in the most heavily, but we do assess end to end.
Really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks
for fun.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.